An emotional day at Talladega Speedway yesterday as the world watched to see how NASCAR would respond to recent events, and we will get to all of that in a second. But first, I say good morning to everyone and welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Kevin Wildes, Chris Broussard is with us. And we have a lot to get to on top of our top story. Coming up this morning, Dak Prescott's bold statement to the league. We'll discuss what's in store for the Cowboys coming up. Should we be worried about playoff Lamar? And will there now be a baseball season? Tom Verducci's going to stop by to talk about that. But we will start with our top story this morning. Bubba Wallace's emotional day on the track yesterday. His number 43 car being pushed to the front of the starting line before the race. All 39 of the other NASCAR drivers and their crews showing their support for Bubba Wallace. This just one day after a noose was found in his garage stall down in Lincoln, Alabama. And while Bubba Wallace would not go on to win at Talladega, his smile, his morale, his message after the race was a win in and of itself. Take a listen.
It's been hell, really. I wouldn't say hell. It's just been hectic, you know, carrying his weight and carrying his burden. I wouldn't really say burden either. I'm proud to stand where I'm at and carry a new face. Look at this. First time's right here from Atlanta. That is so cool. The sport is changing. The deal that happened yesterday, sorry I'm not wearing my mask, but I wanted to show whoever it was that you're not going to take away my smile.
Broussard, I loved absolutely everything I saw yesterday, from the way the drivers supported Bubba Wallace to the way NASCAR responded to Wallace himself, what he said there at the end. What was your reaction to everything that took place yesterday and to what Bubba Wallace had to say?
Well, as you said, Jenna, it was very emotional. It was great to see. There's nothing you couldn't like about it. And there are very few moments in sports that I can recall seeing something like that, especially in a racial context. So it was great to see. On my radio show, The Odd Couple, yesterday, we had Bill Lester on as a guest, who was an African-American driver in NASCAR. He was the first black driver to win a Grand Am event. He retired in 2007. And he told us that the problem when he raced, even 20 years ago, 13 years ago when he retired, was not the drivers or the pit crews for the most part, but it was just certain segments of the fan base that were still tied to the racism and insisted on acting out in that way. And that's kind of what you saw yesterday. I think it was very important for the fans of NASCAR to see a Richard Petty, a Kyle Busch, and all of the drivers and teams supporting Bubba Wallace like this, because these fans, to these fans, Busch and Petty and other drivers are their idols. And so to see their heroes supporting Bubba Wallace and racial equality the way they did was great. Many of those drivers, presumably, some of them at least, grew up in the same culture that, you know, loved the Confederate flag and things like that. And to see that they're willing to change and able to change, I think that could go a long way, because we know how much, you know, people look up to their sports heroes. So I thought that was great. One slight negative, perhaps, is that you wonder, was the person that put the noose in Bubba Wallace's garage, was he in that parade? Because it was a limited number of people that could even get there to the garage. So that's something I guess we'll find out, hopefully, in the investigation. But that just is something you wonder about. But overall, I think it was a great day in display.
Well said, Chris. I thought we were watching a historic moment in American history and in American sports. And when I was my first job in sports, I worked for the ESPY Awards with Maura Mant, and my job was to compile a opening segment called Images of the Year. And certain images, you'd have like people raising the trophy at the end of the montage. And then you had important images like this. And when I was watching this, I looked at it and I said, this has echoes of Pee Wee Reese and Jackie Robinson. And it just felt like a moment that transcended sports and would be written in American history books, Nick. I thought it was tremendously powerful and very well done by the Fox team, the opening. procession was excellent, and the end with Bubba's speech and talking to the fans, I thought was just phenomenal.
I want to give NASCAR credit in the front end. NASCAR and the sport, and it was very well put, Wilds and Broussard. NASCAR and the drivers and the sport as a whole rose to the occasion yesterday. Now, as my friend Bomani Jones has been saying the last month, it's important to not give people too much credit before it's due, premature credit. And if folks are watching this and have been watching the news in NASCAR over the last week and say it took you too damn long to ban the Confederate flag and it shouldn't have taken your one black driver on the top circuit to push the issue, to those people I would say you're absolutely right. It was a decade or 2 decades late. But they finally got here, and when they got here, they were immediately confronted with something of a crisis. Their fans, some of them, did not take the Confederate flag banning lying down. They flew a plane, and they had a little mini Confederate flag rally outside of Talladega this weekend. And then, ostensibly, someone within the sport took it 10 steps further by placing that noose in Bubba's stall. So then NASCAR really was at a crossroads. Do we want to confront this head on, or do we want to pay lip service to it and hope it goes away to not further alienate those fans that would love to be out there waving the Confederate flag? And they took the correct fork in the road. And this is why being inclusive, embracing diversity, just rejecting hate is not only the right thing to do, Jenna, but it's good for business. Did you see the folks that Bubba was talking to at the end? A lot of those people, he said, first-time NASCAR, not participants, people going, attendees is the word, my goodness. You had people like me. Listen, I'll watch the Daytona 500. I'll check out the ends of a few races a year. But I'm be totally honest. That was the first time in my life that I was enthralled beginning to end with a NASCAR race that wasn't the Daytona 500. And I'm like, whoa, there's this new NASCAR overtime thing. Turns out it's been around for a couple years, but I didn't know. It was a great finish. There was in a little almost poetic ending while Bubba couldn't win because he ran out of gas. Ryan LaJoie Corey LaJoie, pardon me, pushes him into pit road so he can finish the race, and Bubba's good friend Ryan Blaney wins the race. It's just, all of a sudden, you are going to lose some fans who value hate more than they love the sport. But you might gain an entirely different group of fans that either didn't feel welcome to the sport before, or folks such as myself that said, well, I'm going to watch because I want to root for Bubba and I want to see how he's embraced by his fellow competitors. And then I'm watching the race and I'm like, this is damn entertaining. And so it's the right thing to do morally. It's the right thing to do business-wise. And while Bubba didn't ask for this responsibility, he does seem like he's up to the challenge and up to the moment. So I thought in the midst of an awful situation, Jenna, NASCAR really turned it around into what could be a positive launching point for somewhere maybe they should have been years and years ago.
You're so right, Nick. If you just look at what we all watched yesterday, the sport under the spotlight, new fans, Broussard, as Nick pointed out, and then drivers that a lot of us didn't know before, all walking in the beginning, drivers that we finally got to see the true essence of who they are. When you look at NASCAR as a whole, do you feel like it took a step forward yesterday?
Well, definitely. As Nick said, it might be some people feel too late, and it is, but look, better late than never, as we always say. And this was definitely a step forward. They did change the minds of a lot of fans. And Nick put it well when he said fans who may have not have felt welcome. I've never even thought about really looking into NASCAR and getting into it. But as he said, I mean, when you see something like this, it creates an interest in the sport. And then you find out the sport itself is actually enjoyable. And so I think they will get a new fan base. I want to shout out Bubba Wallace, too, because I thought he did a great job of handling the situation, really from the beginning, but yesterday in particular, because it is tough to be singled out, even when it's a positive thing like it was yesterday. because you don't want to feel like a charity case. You know, oh, everybody's, you know, coming to me, poor Bubba. You don't want to feel like that. And I thought he did a great job of handling it with dignity. And I thought his comments were strong. Obviously, he raced well, you know, in the midst of all the emotion. So kudos to Bubba Wallace, because it's not, I've been in situations where, you know, you're the only black person in a group of whites. You don't want to be singled out as the black guy. You want to be a person and a man. And so it can be tough, but he handled it well.
I agree, Chris. The emotional weight of that procession, and then to sit in the car for 5 hours at 200 miles an hour and still finish in the top, have a top 20 finish. I think Bubba did a fantastic job. And just to echo your points, Nick, I totally agree. My sons and I sat down. We watched the beginning of the race. We left. We listened to it on Sirius. We came back. We listened to it on Sirius, and we caught the end of the race. So I think there's an opportunity for NASCAR to gain a humongous new fan base.
And listen, there are certain symbols in America that everyone knows what they mean. And whether it's, you know, you kind of want to go through the scale of aggressiveness, if you will, the Confederate flag or a noose or at times, I guess, a burning cross, they all mean the same thing. You're not welcome. This is for a certain group of people, either this town, this pool, this sport, whatever it is. And once you tear down that "you're not welcome" sign, what you might find out is there were some folks waiting to come in that just assumed they weren't welcome. And that's what I think you saw yesterday with, I thought the most beautiful image was the end of the race where Bubba's interviewing. And what you're seeing, and this type of stuff, I apologize, it's in a good way, it makes me emotional, because what you're seeing is what the best of America in theory can be, which is folks who didn't know they had anything in common. The guy wearing the Jimmy Johnson t-shirt, the white fella, next to the black guy wearing the Black Lives Matter t-shirt, who maybe outside of the context of sports wouldn't think they have much in common. But you know what? We both love racing. And now that you have teared away one of those signs that "you're not welcome," those folks maybe come together. And the only way you combat racism or bigotry or ignorance in this country is getting people to know each other. It's why it's such less of an issue in general in major metropolitan cities than in rural communities, because people have to get to know each other. They have to work together, and they realize we're not that different. And so I thought it was beautiful at the end. And again, I'm not trying to be over the top, and I'm trying to be sappy, and I'm not trying to give NASCAR too much credit. But that was important. And I thought it was great. And I thought the end of that does say, during a really tough time in this country, the best of what we can be when we want to be. And I just hope for more of that moving forward.
And Nick, you said it's the best of America. It's the best of humanity, really. As Bubba Wallace said yesterday, the sport is changing. I think we all saw a big part of that yesterday afternoon. All right, we are going to switch some gears now. Talk some football and Dak Prescott's latest statement. That's next. This is First Things First.
A healthy lifestyle should be easy, right? Eat veggies, drink green smoothies, exercise, get your heart rate up, and do yoga to bring your heart rate back down. Well, maybe not so easy, but there is something that helps improve everything, and you can literally do it with your eyes closed. It's sleep. Sleep Number knows what it takes to sleep your best. The Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed lets you choose your ideal firmness, comfort, and support on each side, your Sleep Number setting. It's the perfect solution for couples. These beds are so smart, they respond to your every move and automatically adjust to keep you sleeping comfortably all night. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, for a limited time during the Memorial Day sale, save $1,000 on the new Sleep Number Special Edition Smart Bed, a queen, now only $17.99. You'll only find Sleep Number at Sleep Number stores or by visiting www.sleepnumber.com.
Tonight on FS1, relive the thrilling return of John Cena when he battled Triple H at Madison Square Garden. Do not miss 2008 Royal Rumble tonight at 7 Eastern, only on FS1. Back here with Super Bowl champ Greg Jennings, and we're drawing a blank. If you didn't know Dak Prescott was a Cowboy, Exhibit A. Dak celebrated signing his exclusive franchise tag yesterday like this. Nick, a picture says 1,000 words, but for timing purposes, we're looking for about 30 here. Dak's fashion choice is blank.
It's poor negotiating, Jenna. Listen, we need folks to somewhere fall on the scale between, you've got Dak Prescott's negotiating style, which is wearing literal cowboy apparel, signing the franchise tag early when he wants to become the highest paid quarterback ever. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Jamal Adams' negotiating style, which is already saying goodbye to teammates and good luck, even though he's still on the roster. Somewhere in the middle. Dak, you know what Jerry Jones sees when he sees this? Dak don't want to leave. Dak's going to sign long term. Dak literally wants to be a Cowboy. He sees the value in being a Cowboy. This picture right here cost him $500,000, Greg, per year. Over $2.5 million total over the course of his contract. It's poor negotiating, Greg Jennings.
I disagree. I think it's superb. I think sometimes when you want something, you got to let people know that you want it in other ways that you may have not tried. And this photo, I thought it was a very fitting photo. He's obviously on America's team. He's the head. He's the face. He's the alpha male. So, yeah, play that role. Give them what they want. And hopefully his hopes is that he gets what he wants. It may backfire. It may not.
I thought it was thematically inspiring. The other day we saw Tom Brady come out with the Buccaneers. And you know what we didn't see? Any pirate stuff. We saw no eye patches. We saw no wooden legs. We saw no hooks. So I think Dak embracing this Cowboys theme is just smart overall look. Like, boom, and then he puts on an eye patch. Wouldn't that have been great? Or like, I got a hook. I don't know how many interceptions I'll throw with this hook, but it works. So thematically inspiring, Jenna.
It's been better to see some pirate
on.
Maybe.
Hey, guys, remember a week ago when MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson said the Titans, quote, caught us by surprise in the AFC divisional round loss? Well, Lamar's head coach, John Harbaugh, disagreeing, respectfully, of course, saying, quote, I don't think we took them lightly personally. But, I mean, what was the guy going to say? Nick, Harbaugh disagreeing with Lamar's take on their playoff losses, blank.
Yeah, Jenna, you nailed it. It's predictable. No coach wants anyone to say that essentially the team was not prepared, particularly for a playoff game. But I understand why for Lamar, this is what he wants, and maybe it's true, but it's what he wants to believe. Because the other alternative is a guy who was very good as a rookie and then utterly sensational in year two, had the two worst games of his career in the two biggest games of his career as two playoff games. So instead of going down the mental path of, is it something with me in the postseason, which I wouldn't blame him for not wanting to engage in that thought process, he wants to, listen, we just weren't ready. We'll be ready next year, and then we'll see. So I think it was a predictable answer. But Harbaugh not wanting to hear it's a predictable answer, Greg.
Yeah, it was a mandatory answer to rebuttal those comments by your star quarterback. Again, the face of your franchise, the leader within that locker room, even being so young. But you hit it on the head. I think for Lamar Jackson, that was one of his realities because of his lack of productivity in that game from start to finish. His ability to be so electric and so impactful from week to week, game in and game out, all regular season, and then to come up and show up and not perform the way that he would have wanted to and the way his team ultimately needed him to get them the win. You get comments like that from a quarterback.
Yeah, I thought this was absolutely and 100% invalid. So it's the word we. If one person disagrees with the we, then it doesn't work. If I say, like, hey, Greg and I both have good backgrounds to our set. We have good backgrounds, and Greg will say, like, I've got a good background, but your background's got holes in it, and it's just totally plain. You need to do something. Then we doesn't work. What I say doesn't matter anymore. It's not we. So whatever Lamar said is correct. It's not a we. And my background is terrible. I know. I'm going to work on it after the show.
You got a shaky background. Wow, it's iffy. Let's talk some rookies now. NFL.com released their rankings for the top 3 rookie quarterbacks. Coming in at number 1, Joe Burrow. Coming in at number 2, Justin Herbert, which puts Tua Tagovailoa down at number 3 as the least productive of the 3 rookies this coming season. Important to note, this was based on Herbert most likely starting before Tua does. Nick, I know Tua's your guy, so the chances he's the least productive of the top 3 rookie quarterbacks are blank.
Yeah, just so listen, if you watch this show a lot, there are certain things you just know to be true. One of them is Wildes has a terrible background. I'm glad he finally admitted it. Another is
Don't
what
ever
do old
change,
people be doing?
Wildes.
Old people be lying. You thought I forgot about that one. We're bringing that one back. It's been a few weeks since we talked about old people be lying. The last and most important one, aside from my commitment to take integrity, is what I am not prone to. I am not prone to hyperbole. So it pains me to say this because it's going to sound hyperbolic. But the chances Tua is the least productive rookie quarterback is 0.0%. Absolutely no chance whatsoever. Justin Herbert, I don't care how many weapons he has. I don't care if one of his weapons is a literal lightsaber. It's not going to matter. Tua Tagovailoa is going to be better and more productive than Herbert. I think he will also be better than Joe Burrow, but because of that aforementioned commitment to take integrity, I can't guarantee that. But I can guarantee you with 100% certainty he's more productive than Justin Herbert, Greg Jennings.
I'm with you there. I say it's no chance that he's not more productive than one of these quarterbacks. Now, for Burrow, it is going to be challenging because we expect him to start out the gate. No questions asked there. But if Tua gets on the field, he is going to flat out be more productive than Justin Herbert. And I'm not knocking Justin Herbert. I just believe in the ability and the mental approach of the game and the poise of Tua Tagovailoa. And I think he's a perfect fit with the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, he has a guy in front of him, Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's going to do his thing. And if anything happens, he gets in. I think he's going to be special for a long time.
Okay, so then Nick Wright says, this has just happened on the show, I'm not prone to hyperbole. And then 20 seconds later, he says, I don't care if Justin Herbert has literal lightning bolts that he's throwing out there. I'm not prone to hyperbole, but the guy might have real lightning bolts. It doesn't matter. Look, I think this is a totally fair statement. If we could put up the Dolphins schedule there, Hubs, what do we got? We got those 2 L.A. games, those back-to-back L.A. games. That's when he should start. So I think it's a fair statement. Week 1, of course, a friendly reminder that Bill Belichick is 12-0 against rookie quarterbacks at home. He shouldn't start week 1. And if he's not starting week 1, just let him hang out until those LA teams have to take that long road trip to Miami. Let him get some wins there, and then it gets much easier. You got to buy in there. You got the terrible Jets back-to-back. I think this is a fair statement, Jenna.
No, it's a good point. And again, it's because they have Herbert starting before Tua starts. All right, ending with our very own Greg Jennings.
Oh, no.
Check out how he spent his Father's Day. Same way I did, getting in some gym time, admitting, quote, by Greg Jennings, now I just got to start lifting some real weight. You said it, not me, Greg, but that's good. Hey, Nick, Greg's Father's Day workout was blank.
Yeah, well, Jenna, you alluded to it because you said just like you did. Greg, I don't say this lightly at all, and I hope we can remain friends after this. But you're now bordering on Jenna territory, and nobody wants to border on Jenna territory. The unnecessary Instagram holiday, less clothed than necessary workout. Like, come on, man. We all know you're training for this Mr. Olympiad. We're all so proud of you. Your body looks so good. Oh, is Greg Jennings coming back to play? Is it a comeback tour? Oh, my God, can we see? Enough. It's enough. Saturday is your competition. Can't get here fast enough, Wildes. Enough, man.
All lies, Greg. It's all lies.
Well, look, we keep on calling it Mr. Olympia. I don't think it's Mr. Olympia, so Greg, you have to clarify that. There is a lot of Greg Jennings comeback talk. Just for the record, 19 receptions, 208 yards, and 1 TD in 16 games. There's a lot in the comments. Everyone's like, comeback season, Greg Jennings. So just want to put it out there after Saturday. Maybe you put your focus on the season, Greg.
Well, let me address this. So the workout, this is just maintenance for the week. I gotta stay pumped. Gotta make sure I'm in the position to where I can compete and compete successfully. Number two, Nick, don't be jealous, man. This is just what you do when you train and you enjoy it and you embrace where you are in life. This is where I'm at, man. And as far as the comment of I just gotta start lifting more weight. Trust me, there's a lot of individuals within this industry that lift a ton more weight than what you see right there.
Greg, you just curled 40 pounds about 600 times unless that was on
Because they're not putting it on the gram 5 times a day. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jenna, and I'll let you finish because I know this is kind of your area. Those folks, they're not you and Jenna, the only ones. Every time I log on the gram, it's like, Jesus, man, I just saw these people. Now I got to see them working out. It's too much, man.
Let me add in there. Let me add in there too. So, I'm not one to show my skin like that, but my trainer was like, it's mandatory for you to have a tank top on this week, Greg.
At least you're wearing the tank top. I don't even always get to that. Talk some baseball next. First things first. Welcome back. Brace yourself for this. Guys, I think we're going to have baseball this season. After the MLBPA rejected the owners' latest offer, the owners voted to proceed with the terms of their March 26th agreement, which means a 60-game season starting around July 24th. MLB issued a deadline of 5 p.m. Eastern today, asking if players will be able to report to camp by July 1st and asking players to agree on health and safety protocols. So who better to break all of this down than Fox MLB analyst Tom Verducci. Tom, good morning. Thanks for being here. We're going to start with a simple question. We asked you before, right in the commercial break before we come on here, are we going to have baseball? You said it was painful getting here, but we're almost there. Is it 100% we're going to have baseball? Tell me it's 100%, please.
It's super close to it because they are very close on the medical protocols that, as you mentioned, something they have to agree on by 5 p.m. today. And as far as players getting into camp by July 1st, there's really not a reason why that can't happen. So, yes, it looks like we have a baseball season. We don't have an agreement, but we have a season.
Tom, before we get to what this season's going to look... Oh, sorry, Wilds. Go. No, let me ask this. Before we get to what this season's actually going to look like, Tom, I have a question for you about how we got here, which is the owners offered 60 games. The players countered with 70. And when that happened, I said, oh, okay. They're going to come to an agreement, not a forced, we're implementing a season. The owners are going to counter with 65, 66 games, get the expanded postseason that they wanted, I think a lot of fans wanted, and we'll get there. Why didn't, in your opinion, the owners counter? And why did it have to come down to we're imposing the season?
Well, I think there was just too much distrust on both sides, which is kind of strange. You think back in March when they had this agreement that allowed the commissioner to implement a season. They got that together pretty quickly. That was only about 2 weeks after the pandemic shut down spring training. Things got really worse once they started talking about brass tacks during the last couple of months. And yes, the players were willing to give up their right to go to a grievance procedure for a 70-game schedule, but they didn't want to give it up for a 60-game schedule. And the owners are saying, we lose money every time we play a game in an empty ballpark. We're willing to go to 60 games, but we don't want to go to 70 games. And they just didn't trust each other to get somewhere in the middle. So, in fact, the players now are actually leaving money on the table to retain the right to go to a grievance. Probably about $250 million, according to the previous proposal from the owners. And in this case, you're talking about $33 million to players that would have been forgiven from advanced salaries, and another $25 to $50 million or so on postseason money. They're saying we're going to forego that because we want to retain the right to take this thing to a grievance. They'll have 45 days from now to file one, but that process takes years. So, again, I get back to that word mistrust. They really haven't trusted that the owners have got to this point in, quote-unquote, good faith. Now, who knows how that grievance turns out? It's like putting your fate in the hands of a jury, but it was super important to the players to retain that right.
Tom, just to move to on the field, when I was 14, I had a terrible, terrible season. It went a huge slump. And I saw Derek, I thought I was terrible at baseball, and I saw Derek Jeter had that, like, famous slump, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I wasn't bad at baseball. Maybe I was just on a year-long slump. So to spin it forward, with this truncated season, are any players going to be, do you see, being super affected by just this short season? Or if you get off to a slow start, you're not able to catch up and, the all-star splits and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great point, because a slow start now is basically your season, right? And I think it's according to how players have been keeping in shape and training baseball-wise in terms of how quickly they can get off to good starts. That's a great unknown in this, because you can't afford a slow start here. I think I'll tell you one group of players that really, to me, helps: veteran pitchers, because they've been able to rest, kind of regather. They weren't putting miles on the pitching odometer over the last 4 months, so they can get to the most important months of a year, August and September, relatively fresh. So I think for them, it's a little bit of a break. But you're absolutely right. How people come out of this 4-month break without playing competitive baseball, we really don't know. And I don't want to say it benefits hitters. I don't want to say it benefits pitchers. It's just really a great unknown.
Could you look, I love the answer of the veteran pitchers. Could you throw a couple teams out there who would benefit from a truncated season like this? Are there teams that are mostly veteran that you look at and say they should be fine, they'll know how to handle something like this?
A good question, Jenna. There's two teams that jump out at me. Number one is the Washington Nationals. Strasburg and Scherzer especially, and throw Corbin in there as well. Great starting pitching. But remember, they won the World Series last year. It was a grind. They were a wild card team, had to go through every level, that full month of pitching, that 7 months of the season. There's a reason why we haven't seen teams repeat longer than any time in the World Series era, because the playoffs are a grind. They're much longer. Now the Nationals, again, they've been sort of refreshed. They don't have the miles on their arms in the first half of the season. They won with starting pitching last year. They could do it again. The other team I'm going to pick for a very different reason, the Tampa Bay Rays, because pitchers aren't stretched out. It's going to be even more about bullpens and pitching changes. And to me, there's no team in baseball that has better stuff across the board, 1 through 13 on the pitching staff, or in this case, it might be 1 through 15, than the Tampa Bay Rays. They can just flat out dominate with one guy after another on pure stuff. This short season plays right into their hands.
So, Tom, I appreciate you bringing up a couple teams outside of what I would call the big three this year. If we were to have had a regular season, a typical season, I should say, I think, tell me if you disagree, Yankees, Astros, Dodgers, those three, I think most people would take them versus the field, versus the other 27 teams. Right now, I just looked, right before you came on, Fox Bet has Yankees, Dodgers, Astros as the three overwhelming favorites still compared to the rest of the field. Do you feel their advantage has been muted a bit, or are those three teams clearly a cut above everyone else, even the Nationals and Rays notwithstanding?
Listen, on paper, yes, I would give those teams an edge in terms of talent level. But here's the deal. The shorter the season, the smaller the sample size, the more their advantage goes away. In other words, the team with the best depth, that they can show that depth over 162 games, that will win out. As Buck Showalter likes to say, there are no Cinderellas over 162 games. But you know what? Over 60 games, Cinderella shows up, because a team with that depth and abundance of talent, that doesn't show over 2 months. So I think it disadvantages those teams that you're talking about, especially the case with the Dodgers. I mean, they give a boatload of young players to rent Mookie Betts for 1 year, and now they're renting him for 2 months. So to me, the big teams, yeah, they're super talented, but their advantage has been, I don't want to say eliminated, but it's certainly been diminished.
Tom, some of my favorite baseball moments, full count or 0-2, crowd gets on their feet, starts chanting, and you just know a strikeout is coming. That's all gone now. Fanless baseball. How do you think that's going to affect the pace of play or the actual action on the field?
I think it's going to have a lot of effect on players themselves. There's going to be a break-in period here. I mean, players will tell you stories when they played, say, in the Class A Florida State League or extended spring training games on a backfield at 10 a.m. where there's nobody there. There's not nearly the kind of energy a player brings to his craft as when there's a full crowd, just cheering, as you said, on the edge of their seat on certain counts and situations. That is going to be a big adjustment for major league players. They haven't been in that scenario for a very long time. So, you have to look at that on an individual basis. Some pitchers who rely on emotions, a guy like Marcus Stroman of the New York Mets, I think that's going to be a big adjustment for those kind of guys. So that's another great unknown in this. I think the broadcasts are going to look different. So even as us as viewers watching games or as broadcasters, it's a great unknown as to how this thing plays out.
Tom, there's obviously no winners in this pandemic, but I do wonder if, all things considered, one team that came out all right is Houston. I feel like there was so much of a narrative going into this season about the scandal and about the incredibly hostile crowds they were going to face 81 times this season. Now, their story is totally on the back burner, and they'll face no hostile crowds. How much of I wonder if there's a little, residue bitterness from around the rest of the league, which is like these guys were cheating, and now somehow they're not even going to have to pay their full penalty.
Yeah, probably that feeling is mostly with fans and other ballparks outside of Houston. People kind of been lying in wait. Listen, I was at spring training games in Florida, and I'm talking about Jupiter, Florida, on like senior day on a midweek game with 2,000 people in the stands, and they're just killing the Astros. And I wondered, what is this like when they go to Oakland, when they go to Texas, when they go to New York? They were prepared to hear it all year long, and you're right. First of all, very few, if anybody, in the stands, but the whole emotion from the scandal, I think, has dissipated. So I do think this has given them something of a break in terms of the public response to the Astros. I'm curious to see what the schedule is going to look like. This team was scheduled to play in Yankee Stadium late in the year. I think the schedule is going to be redone. I think it's going to be heavy in terms of interdivision games and maybe playing the division in the other league. So you might not see the Astros playing the Yankees at all. So, yes, there's a break here for the Houston Astros. I think they're very thankful for it. And honestly, guys, for me, I didn't want to see that because I thought fans would really get over the top with expressing their displeasure. I'm all about booing them. That's part of a baseball tradition. But I was worried that it might get out of hand because people were so emotional about it.
Take a page out of the NBA playbook. Try to pump in crowd noise, pump in the booing. Tom Verducci, we are so close to baseball. Thank you, as always, for stopping by. Much appreciated. We got to take a turn, talk some NBA, and Draymond Green's got a message for all of his doubters, Nick Wright included. Next on First Things First.
Oh, no. I've always supported Draymond.
This weekend, we got 2 NASCAR Cup Series races live from Pocono Raceway. First on Saturday, catch the action, 3:30 Eastern on Fox. Then Sunday at 4, they're back at it again on FS1. Both races are also available on the Fox Sports app. Gentlemen, time for stories to start your morning, starting with some sitting out. Wizards forward Davis Bertans will opt out the NBA restart due to health and injury concerns ahead of free agency. Blazers forward Trevor Ariza also sitting out. For him, it's because of a commitment to visitation rights with his son. Nick, obviously 2 completely different reasons, but nevertheless, could we see more players, for whatever the reasons, opting out of the restart?
Well, I think these are both very unique cases. Ariza, I think no matter his team, no matter his situation, he'd be sitting out and totally understandable. He's in a bit of a custody battle, it would appear. This is the month he can be with his son, so he's not going to play, and I totally respect that decision. Bertans is in almost the perfect Goldilocks zone for a guy who it makes sense for him. He's never gotten a big deal. He's awaiting a huge contract potentially this summer. And he's on one of the 2 worst teams to even be invited, probably one of the 2 teams that shouldn't have been invited. So it doesn't make sense. I don't know, Wildes, if Bertans is doing this, if, for example, he'd been traded to a contender at the deadline, as a lot of people thought he would, but he wasn't. And so I don't begrudge that. I don't begrudge him this decision for an awful Wizards team anyway.
Yeah, Bobby Marks said he's forfeiting about $600,000 for his new contract that he's looking forward to. Broussard, I think it's more akin to like a star sitting at a not Pro Bowl game, like a college bowl game that they don't really care about.
Well, what scares me is when a guy like Lou Williams says he's 50-50. And not just because I picked the Clippers, but if you start seeing, let's say you see 15 to 20 guys of Lou Williams caliber, right? A notch or two, a notch below stars. Let's say there's a Tobias Harris, a Brook Lopez, a Lou Williams, guys like that start sitting out. I'm not predicting that, but if that's the case, then this season will be seriously compromised. And that's when people start looking at asterisks when you have guys like that sitting out.
Oh, Broussard, so worried about his
On to the New York Kid.
So worried.
Where the Knicks have received approval from the Lakers to talk to Jason Kidd about their head coach vacancy. Broussard, I feel like this is going to be a wide coaching net casted. You like the fit between the Knicks and Jason Kidd?
It's definitely become a wide net. I don't necessarily like Kidd there. I like Kidd as a coach. I thought he was good in Brooklyn. And in Milwaukee, 3 of his 4 years, they had a winning or 500 or above record. But I like him better with a veteran squad or a younger squad that's on the cusp. Like, I could see him in Philly. I think that'd be a good fit if Brett Brown is jettisoned. But I don't know so much about New York. They're just totally rebuilding.
I mean, part of it's this, like, Giannis rumors. If you get Jason Kidd, would Giannis come along? When he got fired from Milwaukee, Giannis was going to call his agent and say, like, oh, what can I do? But look, the Knicks also interviewed 11 people when they hired David Fizdale, who they should have kept, who's an excellent coach. So I don't know how this ends up, but I don't know if Kidd is the answer either, Nick.
You guys are totally bearing the lead. The Lakers are letting the Knicks interview their own head coach? I kid Frank Vogel.
Okay.
Obviously, he's the head coach of the team. It's not that Jason Kidd's actually running things behind the scenes. This is, of course, all about Giannis. This is the Knicks once again convincing themselves, if we hire this GM from CAA, if we hire this coach, if we do this, we're going to get that superstar. It's the owner. Unless Jason Kidd's auditioning to be the owner, it ain't going to help him. So I don't think it really matters for the Knicks, Jenna.
Telling it like it is, Nick Wright. Let's not forget about Dre.
Oh, forgot about Dre.
The Warriors' 3-time champ has a message for all his doubters. Looking at you, my friend Nick Wright. Draymond saying on Instagram, quote, yeah, I'm going back to being that guy since they all seem to have forgotten. Nick, did you forget?
Well, I'll be honest. I did forget about this specific game he's referencing, so I looked it up this morning. It happened January 2nd, 2016. They were 31-2 at that point. That's the 73-win Warriors. Now that season obviously ended with Draymond in his car crying because of what LeBron did and then calling Kevin Durant. But throughout the season, he was amazing. 39% from 3, 7th in league MVP voting. The problem is since then, he has been the single worst high-volume three-point shooter we have in the league, and he seems to have lost a step defensively. So, yeah, if he gets back to that level, Wildes, then the Warriors can be dangerous again. I unfortunately don't see that coming for him.
Yeah, that specific game was nuts. It was 29, 17, and 14. His career averages are 14, 9, and 7. I think that's his just best season. So, Broussard, I'm happy with that. We don't need to double everything. We just need a competent Draymond and stop taking threes once Clay is back.
Nick can hate all he wants. I told him months ago, the Warriors will be back when everyone's in their role. With Steph and Clay as the number 1 and number 2 guys. Draymond's back as the 3rd guy. Wiggins is 4th. I love it.
And then who's the 4th?
Nobody's surprised that Draymond wasn't good as the number 1 guy. He can't carry a team, but in his role, he's going to be back to that guy. Watch.
Oh, my God. 3rd option, Draymond.
All right,
4th option, Andrew Wiggins.
Brotherly love. In the Antetokounmpo family, Giannis's younger 18-year-old brother Alex is now going pro, signing a 3-year deal with Spain's UCAM Murcia. That makes 4 pro Antetokounmpo brothers, 3 of them in the NBA. Broussard, I love this family. I gotta tell you, can they get any more talented?
That is incredible. 3 guys in the NBA, a 4th in the pros. And look, he's 6'7". He's only 18 years old. He's going straight out of high school. He's going to learn a lot over in Spain. I think he's better off going over there playing with grown men and professionals than going to college where he was like a mid-major type recruit. I think he'll end up in the NBA in a few years. I really do.
Wow. Yeah, it was a loss for DePaul, but I think this is a smart move to go over to Spain, Nick.
Loss for DePaul? You and our producer, Sam
DePaul.
Pepper, are always here pumping up Wisconsin. He lived in, hey, Wisconsin, maybe make the kid an offer. He's in your home state.
That's a good idea.
Terrible. Bo Ryan's rolling over in his, Bo Ryan's still with us, but Bo Ryan's very upset with Wisconsin not offering Alexandros. But I'll tell you what I think's going to happen, Broussard. I think Giannis, if they win the title in Milwaukee, if he wins another MVP, I think he's going to have the cachet to be like, hey, Milwaukee, you want to keep me? Our starting 5 in 2 years
Bring them all
is
in.
Alexandros,
Yep.
Kostas, myself, and Thanasis. 4 Antetokounmpos in your starting 5. I want to see it. I'm rooting for it, Jenna.
If I were the Bucks,
right,
I'd do it to keep Giannis.
Ending with some iron sharpening iron. Another day, another Mike Tyson training video. Each one scarier than the last. Still amazes me. This guy is 53 years old. Broussard, how impressive is this?
You know, the thought of a 53-year-old in the ring scares me, but I got to admit, I'm becoming intrigued. I think mentally, he's probably in a better space than he's ever been since early in his championship years. I think he could actually do some damage if he got in the ring.
Yeah, I'm going the other way. This is all Smart Cup. There it is, Smart Cups. This is all an ad for Smart Cups. It's a little cup with some, like Tang on the bottom of it or whatever it is, Crystal Light.
Tang.
You pour water in. It's just an ad. We've been all tricked.
Well, can Smart Cups get him some smart shorts? The hell you wearing, Iron Mike? I mean, my God.
What are you
looking
talking
like
about?
Jeff
You're making fun
Hornacek
of
in his
Mike.
heyday. Come on, man.
Those are back in style, Nick.
Come on.
We'll see you in those.
those are back.
We gotta go.
That ain't in style, Jenna.
Broussard, thank you so much. Back here tomorrow morning. Have a great day. Stay safe, everyone.